It's
This better
Hotline League
not be.
episode 115. Oh my god, it's so good to be here. It's week 2 here in the quarantine bunker of Travis Gafford Industries. In the other room, I've got my roommate, Kobe. We're going to introduce him formally in a second. But first, my constant co-host is here, Mark Zimmerman. Mark, how's it going?
It's going.
Yeah? How's it going?
Yeah. Forward, onward through time, not backwards. I have been. We did the remote LCS. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, and I played some games. Yeah,
Nice. That's awesome. What games did you play?
I bought The Witcher 3. Witcher 3. I've been playing that a little bit. I really enjoyed that. I grinded it a fair amount, but then TFT Mobile came out and I started playing that. And then once I started playing that on my phone, I was like, fuck, I should just play this on my computer because I'm at home anyways. And now I've just been playing TFT. And Set 3 is out, and it's
I think it's
fun.
cool that it's out on mobile, but yeah, I don't play any phone games ever. I'm a super boomer. I only play at my computer.
Well, now you definitely
I
don't
always
need
fall-
to play phone games because you're not going anywhere.
I fall into like a phone game trap every couple months where I'm like, what's popping right now? And there's like Summoner's War or some other crap.
Yeah. Well, either way, my roommate and our guest tonight is Kobe, Sam Hartman-Kensler. How's it going, Kobe?
It's going pretty well. I would like to say that the only reason I've decided to come on the show is to pitch Cat for Kobe in person. I feel like it's lost a lot of steam over
It hasn't lost any
last
steam.
There's
couple
been a little
weeks.
bit bigger news going on.
It hasn't lost any steam. This shit is so frustrating. I've now had to ban like 7 different iterations of it from my chat so that people can't say it. Right now, you're gonna see a bunch of people getting timed out. If you look at the Twitch chat, they're all just
So
getting timed out.
this is the point in most meetings, most shows right now, Travis, where everyone introduces their pets. Azale's got his dogs, Mark's got his cats. Us here at TGI really are kind of struggling here at the beginning of these types of shows.
What if I get you like a stuffed animal?
Kobe, you should refuse to do this show if he doesn't agree to a cat right now. And you just leave and hang up. What's he going to do?
I like it. I like where your head's at, Mark.
Listen,
Mark, you can actually you can run my.
I'll negotiate for you. I'll be your cat
campaign manager Mark Zimmerman.
agent.
Very political time. Should we talk about the Cat for Kobe situation?
Is there much to talk about other than you being an evil person and not letting him get
I
one?
don't think that's true. I found out, Nicole told us that I would have to throw away the majority of my plants if we got a cat because they're poisonous.
So I don't really. I think we need some verification on that.
She's a cat owner.
Is she a biologist too?
True, but
She went to Columbia. She's
for biology,
for a variety of things. I don't know. She's very smart.
I mean, I've been on the Harvard campus. Does that?
She's a very smart
My
woman.
dad went to a good school. I don't know. How far can we push this?
Anyway, let's talk about some stuff. By the way, this show is sponsored by Alienware. We'll talk more about them in the future as the show progresses. But the big news out of today, because some asshole decided to make a video talking about it.
He just wanted some views.
Just wanted
He's
some views.
desperate. He's fading from
You
relevancy.
can't even see your cat, Mark. Can we just get back to your face?
I don't know why I can't figure this out right now. I used to know how to zoom on things.
So the video for me on Skype is super stuttery right now anyway. So I actually like Mark's cat cam better than the normal one.
my like breaking up mouth just jolting up and down.
We are dropping some frames. Maybe I will. Let's see if I can lower my. For those that don't know, basically we had a tech come out because our normally pretty good internet has been awful, and it's because the tech told us as soon as he walked in, I was like, internet's been slow and our upload is horrendous, and he's like, yeah, it's because everyone's working from home. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to test the signal right now. It'll be fine. And then I'm going to tell you it's because everybody's working from home. So he tests the signal. He's like, the signal's fine. And he's like, it's because everybody's working at home. Apparently, the node for our neighborhood and part of the city is just screwed. So our normally 35 up has become like 5 to 12 up, depending on the day or part of the day. Shox was talking about this too. She's been having issues. So... and in Berlin, so I guess it's just everyone working from home. In Europe, they actually capped, like Netflix is doing a lower bit rate, and YouTube is defaulting people to standard definition because of it. So it's one of the fun things going on right now.
No more movies. Everyone has to watch anime because you can tell what's going on in lower quality.
That would be the end of me. I have no interest in it.
What about just playing video games? What about books, huh? Did you guys find a book that you like?
I do listen to books. We've talked about this, you and I.
No, listening doesn't count.
Yeah,
Streaming audio is bad.
No, but I've
Audio's
already downloaded the books. I've got
big chunk.
multiple books on my phone right now with hours and hours and hours of content on them. Yeah, no rebuttal. That's what I thought, Mark. All right.
I just can't figure out my focus right now, dude.
I
feel
need
like
you to
I've
focus
lost
on the show.
my touch. Please get us into our first actual topic,
tried
which
to.
you were supposed to do.
So I did a video today talking about how the LCS Players Association, which includes the Academy players, very important, voted last week to cancel. I need to make sure I say cancel because I keep accidentally saying suspend, which is a different thing. Cancel Spring Split. The majority of them voted this. Now, to be clear, this was not a vote that was like, we're going to vote to cancel it and we expect Riot to cancel it. And if not, we're going to walk or whatever. It was basically, I know nobody watched my video. They just all ran to the comments. And then eventually they saw Jack's 2 paragraphs and then felt like they didn't need to watch the video because they found a reason to be angry. But it was never meant to be, we're going to not play. But it was because, you know, the Players Association tells me at least that Riot was interested in the players' opinion on whether or not they should cancel the Spring Split or move remotely, because supposedly Riot and the owners were considering those 2 options too. The players decided they wanted to cancel, etc. So now we're going to talk about this a ton because there are a bunch of different reasons. If you're watching this VOD-wise, do me a favor, just pause this video right now and go watch that video because I don't have the 12 minutes right now to explain everything.
It's 14 minutes. Don't do it. You're never gonna come back. You're gonna get lost.
Just do it because you're not going to understand the context on this stuff if you don't. Anyway, Mark and Kobe. Before we get into calls, maybe we should share our opinions on this because Mark, you were messaging me, and you were livid. The amount of profanity you were throwing my direction over Facebook Messenger. My
What if we just
tough internet
roll
connection
through that conversation instead? Be a faster way to get my take. Just show everything I typed quickly on
There's
screen.
other things in there I typed to you can't show on screen, so that would be a bad idea.
Can we get a quick edit with some animated faces where Mark's various stages of rage?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. You and I have already talked about it. I haven't heard Kobe's take. I'd actually be curious to hear what Kobe thinks first.
I mean, there's, like he said, I just want more information, right? Because there's so many parts to it. There's so many reasons you can go through depending on who voted and why they voted and their motivations. Because obviously we've been over this before. Even a couple of weeks ago, we were having this discussion about how Spring Split matters and competition matters and, players lacking drive, especially in North America, is a very hot topic. And I know people really want to get up at arms and immediately be like, these lazy players just racking up the checks. There's no competition. There's no young talent that are going to kick them out the door. So they're getting complacent and they don't care about anything except getting played. They basically, people are going to jump to, they don't want to put in any work and just reap rewards, right? But obviously we also have extenuating circumstances right now. There's a global pandemic. We have a health crisis. Various reasons, people miss their families. People are worried about teammates getting sick. People are worried about contamination. There's all sorts of things that people are worried about right now. There's financial crisis, even as the markets are slowing to a halt. So, I mean, there's just so many layers to this that I know people immediately see the title of Travis' video and they, want to jump down the players' throats for being lazy or whatnot. But I would just say, take a little bit to consider some of the other factors.
I agree to a degree. So I think
like you were saying, the video is good, and Travis does a good job trying to paint all the information and share it. But it, like you said, it left me with a number of questions, and unfortunately, I feel like because of the blowback that has already happened, we'll never get the actual answers now. Because anyone who felt like Spring Split didn't matter will not say that anymore. So any kind of polling that we do now, unless it's completely anonymous, and even then, I doubt people would do it if they knew it was going to become public. They would honestly click a box that said, "Yeah, I did that," even if it didn't have their name on it or anything. At this point, I feel like it's become such a big deal that it's just doomed. But that's why I think I kind of am frustrated at the Players Association for seemingly botching both the collection and the dissemination of the information. Because Travis, you will have more information on this, so stop me if I get any part of this step-by-step wrong. But it sounds like Riot pinged the Players Association to ask them for their opinion. The Players Association collected a very simple yes or no. Would you prefer to keep playing or cancel the season? And even keep playing was not really.
Yeah, it was the question was, would you prefer to A, play remotely and finish Spring Split, or B, cancel?
Right. So it was a single question, presumably by email, sent out with no whys or reasons or anything. And then somehow that got passed around, and the two reasons that were mainly given were because Spring Split doesn't matter, and obviously the situation with coronavirus, and because the information was not gathered in a data-driven way or anything like that. You don't know which of those answers is the real one, or like which one carried more weight. Like, was it actually that Spring Split doesn't matter to of the 66% who said yes, maybe that was 20%, and the other 40% was the corona situations. But because that wasn't collected on the first pass, it sounds like the Players Association then went back and asked people why.
So
as opposed to
I don't think
at the same time.
I don't think it was necessarily two passes as to why or whatever. I'll go into a little bit of greater detail just because. Sorry, did you have more you want to say?
Well, I mean, like I was just asking, what do you mean two passes?
Oh, you said that they've asked and then afterwards went back and asked why. I don't think that's not the vibe I get.
Oh, I got that they sent out this one survey thing.
Yeah, so it's unclear to me how the information as to why was communicated. Right. I'm going to read. I don't normally do this. I feel a little uncomfortable doing it, but I feel a need to do it because I want to correct, or not correct, but to clarify. I think there's some confusion about whether or not it was because Spring Split didn't matter or mattered. And I think part of that, like what Jack might be referring to, is a little bit of a scoop. Commissioner Greeley sent an email to stakeholders in the league, and the what he wrote in it was, I got my hands on this, the two overarching reasons provided by the executive committee were that 1, Spring Split doesn't mean anything and we won't have a long break before Summer Split, and 2, overarching worry about their safety. There was not. It's important because people will see, like, number one, they'll be like, that was the number one reason, but it could just be the way the commissioner wrote it in the email to all the different folks in the league. Now, so I just, like, people are going to think over the course of this discussion that I'm taking the side of the players. I'm more taking a neutral side, whereas I've seen everybody go to one end of the spectrum and say, like, the players are lazy and all of them suck. I'm trying to explore the nuance here because I think there's a great deal of it. But two, or the last thing I'll say too, is that those were the two reasons that were given in the email to the stakeholders. When I talked to the Players Association, I received additional information was that in fact there were a lot of people that were worried about their safety, that there are international players who feel uncomfortable right now that are in the league. And so it is much more than perhaps those two reasons, and there's no information or no data out there that shows that the number one reason is because players think Spring Split doesn't matter.
I saw Kobe with the finger up, doing his dive techniques.
Also, I've moved. I've realized if I move this window, then it's all white, and my face suddenly gets whited out.
I like it. It's when we know you're not paying attention.
Yeah. But this is not to say, and me trying to bring up the other possible, reasons and extenuating circumstances surrounding this event. I'm not trying to say that there is not a problem with motivation or, dedication and complacency with North American pros. I think one of the reasons why people jump on this so much is we get the question so often, what does NA need to do to succeed? And it all always trickles down into these various things where we don't have enough younger talent coming up. We don't have this breeding ground to create more competition. So it leads to this kind of dominance at the top where a lot of players have been in the same situation and have been at kind of the peak of the scene, or at least good enough to hold their spots without a lot of push from beneath. And that kind of leads to justifying one's own complacency, which is another word that can lead to laziness. But you kind of subconsciously justify your own complacency because there isn't a good push of ground swelling of talent coming up in competition, grinding that way, and that will lead to people getting upset for things like these and brushing off competition or duties and stuff like that. So I do think it's more nuanced, and there's definitely valid reasons for people to be like, what? We need more passion. But there's also everything else that's going on.
Right. I mean, like the import players are 100% justified, I think, in their feelings of like, hey, I want to be able to get home. If I have to play this season out and things get worse and borders close and I can't get home, that would suck. I totally get that. I think that's the main one where I really feel for imports, and they should, there doesn't matter to me that they feel that way. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's the fact that there's 90 players voted. Travis said 66%, which means roughly 60 players voted yes. That's way more imports than we have. There's a grouping of academy players. We don't know how any of this broke out, obviously. Once again, because this was not really. It wasn't probably supposed to be, this in-depth report, but now that it's become that, it's just unfortunate that we don't know some of these things. But I will still say that I don't feel like Spring Split not mattering should ever even
100%.
Like it should just be, I said no because coronavirus related reasons, and there's a handful. The fact that there was even 2 categories for why they feel this way is pretty ridiculous to me. And I don't know what percentage that is or how. And I do think there is one line that I can kind of agree with, or like one train of thought, which would be Spring Split doesn't matter anyways, in air quotes. And so I don't want to take the additional risk with Corona. But that's more, again, putting it more on the coronavirus part in this COVID-19, more so than the Spring Split doesn't matter part. But the fact that they were broken apart by Greeley, at least, that to me is just really concerning overall and kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, but it also is not surprising. Like, are you surprised that, like, and I want to be careful speculating here. We don't know who voted. We don't know what way they voted. Mm-hmm. But would it be surprising to you if you found out, for instance, that CLG voted not to continue the split?
That's the funny thing, too, though, is like, I feel like if you took this survey on any given split on week 8, 40% would say yes.
Yeah.
Like all 4 teams not in playoffs probably say, yeah, let's just cancel it.
Kobe, did we lose your camera?
No, I am surprised.
I think we lost your camera.
Honestly. You the camera's
can you just drop it off and put it back on again?
On Skype? Skype, like hang up or turn it on?
Yeah, just turn off the camera on Skype and then back on.
Turn it on and off again.
There we go. You're back.
Yes. Okay. So I am surprised when stuff like this happens, especially after we just had this huge incident surrounding Doublelift. And Doublelift is the most brand powerful player in the entire league. And everybody sees him get benched for saying spring split doesn't matter. Yes, that's like a condensed version, but it's these issues surrounding the motivation and the complacency that kind of arises at the top, and it's this whole big event. So I was surprised that only a couple weeks later, we have everyone else voting. Yep, doesn't matter. I don't want to play. Forget this. So that's why I was leaning more towards the
Outrage.
exactly, or I was leaning more towards the second reason of the world events going on and stuff like that does lead some into it, but the fact that was kind of first reason or number one reason actually was surprising to me, because even as CLG, it sucks that you're last, but I always want to try and like prove that I'm improving, right? And getting better at the game, playing more on stage, fighting for my spot, basically.
Like you like that. Like if you're Rune, you're happy you played that Jace game this weekend where you went 8-2 and shit on people, right?
Exactly, because if I'm on that team right now, I would consider my job gone if nothing changes. If we quit now, I'm the running CLG. I'm chopping everybody off that team except for Poe Belter. So everybody who is on it, I would think would want to be like, I need more time to prove on stage that I've got it. I need to show what I've been practicing. I need to show what I've been grinding on. Yes, it's true. But look what I can do now, right?
You guys are really
I'm dropping bitrate again. We're hoping that it'll come through again. Sorry. Anyway, looks like we've stabilized. People are going to start saying saved in the chat because I see,
saved. Yeah.
We'll say bro needs
just for inspirational speech, though,
yes,
right?
It was very motivational. That was the best speech ever. People can catch it in the VOD. It was a bit repetitive.
I totally agree with it as well. Just like if the fact that you're competing at a high level at anything isn't motivation enough, if the hundreds of thousands of dollars you're not getting paid is enough, if playing in front of hundreds of thousands of fans every weekend and trying to make them like you and show off and look good isn't enough, if trying to make it to MSI isn't enough, like I don't know. That sounds like a you problem, not a system problem. Like there's enough other things to play for other than championship points. And if that one thing that was changed from last year to this year makes you think spring doesn't matter, I have pretty little sympathy for that opinion. I can see from fans. I think fans have a bigger reason to say this than players do. Like if a fan's a fan of Dignitas, let's say, and they're about to get knocked out, maybe you'd be like, oh, I don't care, because it doesn't matter if they make playoffs and then lose because their season's over. But the players should still care. And if they don't have the motivation, then what was your motivation before? Because only 30% of you guys get to Worlds. Why is going from only 30% of you get to Worlds to only 10% of you get to MSI suddenly like such a drop off in your desire to play? Like most of you, the vast majority of you aren't going to make Worlds. Why is it suddenly the vast majority of you aren't going to make MSI? Such a different perspective.
So I want to move on from this angle of it because we are now having like the 17th hour on this show of talking about why saying spring split doesn't matter.
New information.
No,
came out.
I know. I'm glad. It's fine to go over it, but I think the other aspects of this are more relevant because it made me personally think about things that I had not thought about and that I had not seen talked about publicly, which is what could the effects of this be if we start losing players, either because they don't want to stay in LA anymore or because they get sick. Like people, it was funny because I released the Acadian interview today. So I interviewed, I think like 6 or 7 of the people I interviewed, I asked about this. Acadian basically says he voted no. And like the headline, I didn't say he voted no because he said in that basically he's like, yeah, here's the reasons I had my vote this, and he didn't say vote no, but he's like, people could get sick. What's it mean if people start being not able to play? This could be a real issue. That's why I voted this way. However, I do feel like this gives me meaning, and so I'm happy to keep playing, blah, blah, blah. It's very funny because people missed that, like, he was one of the people that voted no. And I think his reasons are interesting, right? Like, let's say things get worse, which people think, a lot of the experts think it's going to get worse before it gets better in the U.S. Like, what ends up happening if this starts getting worse?
I guess I thought I saw some people tweeting there was some confusion as well. I saw a coach or a couple staff members saying that they weren't sure, that they thought the first thing proposed to the pro players wasn't like still playing in studio but with no crowd, which I think if that was what Acadian was saying, one of the reasons
It was remote.
so I think
the Players Association told me it was remote.
But if it was remote, and I'm not sure what his team was suggesting, what Dignitas Academy was suggesting, but if you're not forced to go into your team's studio or something and you're playing remote, which I think a lot of them are, I guess I could be wrong, but I don't know how that is not playing is preventing you from being less likely to get sick if you're playing from home.
Yeah, I mean, right now you're not supposed to travel. People aren't even really supposed to leave LA. The mayor had sent out that thing about not even like visiting your family unless it's urgent or something like that. So I mean, it's a very different time for everyone because we're experiencing this kind of unprecedented level of a global health concern. So it is, very difficult navigating this, but Mark's kind of touching on, if you are 100% playing remote and self-quarantining anyway, then it's not really introducing a lot of extra contact here. The steps have been taken to limit pretty much all levels of, extra human contact. So if you're playing a game at your computer, everybody's still, communicating via the Discord or Skype or whatever.
Yeah, I also think like if people start getting sick, and like I think Dom might have it. He said, I saw some tweets about him. He's feeling pretty under the weather. But like if a pro player gets sick and can't play, it might happen on a larger scale than like a non-pandemic one, where sometimes a whole group of the players just get sick. Like when they travel for events and stuff, it's not too uncommon to hear that like a whole team gets sick. So that doesn't sound that out of the, I'm not trying to downplay how serious Corona is here, because I do, like, I have been quarantined. I haven't gone outside for more than probably an hour. I didn't take a pledge because I don't need to. But I did not. I have not been outside for more than an hour probably in the last 2 weeks. But at the same time, if people are, if a pro player gets sick and he's already, quarantined but playing online, either you have subs for that reason or whatever. And I don't think canceling the league is somehow, because that's the other alternative that he's suggesting, is not, what do you do if a bunch of pro players get sick? You say, well, let's just not even play the league then.
I mean, I feel like that might come to, like, a lot of these guys live together, and I just think it's a really weird look. I'm not saying necessarily that it needs to be canceled, but if players start literally coming down with Corona, and I know that they're quarantined and all that stuff, but you can never 100% this. And we don't know if they have like girlfriends coming over or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, they could have gone out to a party because they weren't respecting the quarantine. Like anyone, you can.
Yeah, people go out to get food, or a manager comes in to give them food or something. It's not like this is a.
I went to the grocery store today. Maybe I fucking got it like the 20 minutes I was outside. Right. Who knows?
But that doesn't really have to do with this discussion.
Exactly.
Of whether they should cancel it now or not, because you're mentioning ways of getting it that are not introduced by playing the LCS completely.
Yeah, I don't
online.
think he was saying, and people can, like, I want to be careful. I don't want to put words into his mouth. People can just watch the interview or a transcript if you don't want to give me views. But I don't think he's saying it is dangerous for us to continue. I think he is saying, like, it doesn't maybe make sense to do it in this environment because we might end up in a world where teams start subbing. Maybe then the argument becomes, okay, well, we need to wait and have that discussion if that ends up happening.
Yeah.
But
It's a huge slippery slope to me to be like, well, people could get sick and people might not be able to play and things might get weird, so let's just cancel the whole
Right.
thing. That to me is just, I just can't, like, that line of logic doesn't track with me.
So Danon, who's the Golden Guardians GM, says, I would have preferred if we just paused spring and started up a separate new online-only season of weekly tournaments or short season while we learn about how long we're going to be locked away from the studio. So, like, and that's, I think, a point that people haven't really brought up, right? And that's why I'm trying to point out that there's, like, a lot of granularity here. Before I want to start taking calls soon because we've been going on for this for a long time. And the point of the show is obviously to hear all of you, but the final. What?
I was just gonna say, like, if there's already motivation concerns and stuff like that, if that's playing into it at all, I don't see how a new league that has no bearing even on MSI is like a solution.
Oh, Papa Smithy says he proposed the same thing. The multiple GMs in the league were proposing the idea of creating a separate, in parallel league situation.
What does that fix?
Well, maybe they can call in and tell us.
Yeah, I would like to hear because I'm sure there's something I'm missing.
Yeah.
So while Mark is, hang on, really quickly. I think before Mark starts pulling calls, I'm going to say one thing, but I just want to say other things we can talk about because obviously this is some of the biggest stuff. But the broadcast going remote, would love to hear people's takes on that. If you thought it was good, if you thought it wasn't, viewership looked anecdotally a little lower than normal. I don't know. I haven't seen the numbers yet, but like, did people think there were issues with it? Or people really impressed? I don't know. Would love to hear about that. Obviously, how the teams played. We're now done with week 8, so we've got one final week to find out who's going to make it into playoffs. A lot of interesting storylines. TL potentially out. EG rebounding. A lot of interesting things. So feel free to have a lot of different takes on this. And Mark.
Yeah, I haven't been reading the Discord, so if you did post your thing before, I haven't really been checking, and there's an overwhelming amount of messages. So I'm going to spam this right now. Go ahead and join up and post your topics, and I'll start reading through them and pulling people now.
And then the final thing, while Mark is pulling, I just want to say, a thought that I had is what it must be like to be a Korean pro in LA right now. Because you probably have family, like my mom is messaging me constantly about all this stuff, sending me, she's like, be safe, don't go, blah, blah, blah. It's very nice, if a little bit much. But, imagine you're a Korean pro, your family's contacting you, they're reading all this news about how, like, I think the U.S. is now the 3rd highest rate of contraction. We still don't have a really good grasp of this, unlike Korea, who got their first case the same day as we did. And took immediate steps to do all this. I don't want to go down that road, but obviously this situation is much better. They've done a much better job of managing it in Korea. You probably have family pressuring you or feeling really uncomfortable with the fact that you're here in LA playing video games for a living, something. Maybe want you to come back home. You might have been planning on coming home between spring and summer. Now potentially you can't based off the travel ban stuff. Who knows? A lot of things are fluid. It's like a really interesting time. So I think that's the big thing is I'd love to have people imagine what it is to be in that situation and perhaps a little bit of empathy. And I'm not saying that means that it needs to cancel, but like this is a little bit more than perhaps some people are thinking. It's not.
Aren't you not supposed to be traveling right now anyways?
A lot of the countries are saying come home.
I know Canada said that, but I also have heard that health experts are.
I mean, I don't think you're supposed to travel like for fun, right? I would love to go to Hawaii. I don't think I would do that anytime soon. But I think there's a difference between leaving one pretty messy country handling this to go to your safer home than it is like driving or flying to Vegas to go to EDC, which still hasn't canceled, and I'd really like them to cancel so that I can get my money back because very clearly it's not going to happen. EDC. Okay.
All right. I have some people. You ready?
Yes. Some quick shout outs, by the way, to see where we get to the towers. Vitus and Ho, Merchant of Soul, Ronald in Ho, Insulin Shots, Wiblo, Solarith, Mivyard. Okay. We got our first caller is Khan. Hello, Khan. Welcome to the show. Are you the same Khan that I'm used to?
I am.
Are you Idaho?
I am in Idaho,
Nice.
Boise to be
I
more
remembered. I'm so proud of myself in this moment. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So, my topic is going to be about obviously the vote to potentially cancel Summer Split that the players put
Spring.
through, or the opinion of Spring Split. Thank you, Travis. And how it's a much bigger deal than, with Riot kind of ignoring it than people are making, and that people should be siding, I think, more with the players. First, the things first. How often on this show and around the place have we criticized players for not taking the Players Association seriously, for not trying to make it do something or have a difference be made? And like for me, this is the first chance they had to actually have an opinion that says something and try to voice something, and it kind of got immediately ignored and shut down. Meaning that why would a player be motivated to go back to the Players Association at the moment? And then, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know if you wanted us to respond or if that was like a rhetorical
Well,
question.
my second point too, and you guys can respond later on, but the other point I think is, it's not just imports with this issue; it's also people from Canada. How many NA residents do we have right now in the LCS that are also Canadian, that are being told, like Travis just said, come home, be back in our country. We don't want you potentially in a hotbed like America and stuff like that. And, with this getting, closer and closer in April, and a lot of countries starting to close borders and travel, you have players who might not see their family in this crisis until September and August. And you don't know if they have any family members that are, potential risks or not and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot more to think about here than just, oh, they're not motivated and they're not stuff like that.
Mark?
Okay, I'll go first. The second point, I think, is a good point. So definitely the Canadian situation is one I'm curious about because it's kind of hard. A lot of pros who are Canadian basically just live in America at this point. But it is a different time. So like a lot of them do go home, but not for very long and often stay as I understand it. But it is a different time where like you might want to be more interested in getting home now than you would normally be between seasons or something. The first point about the Players Association, I feel like I don't know what happened with how the communication worked between Greeley and them, because that's one of those things that we were talking about at the top where we don't know.
I can
how
tell what
happened,
I've heard.
Okay, go for it.
The way the Players Association tells it is, there was a question posed to the Players Association from Riot, which was, what do the players think of all this? Because they were talking to the owners. Players ran this poll. They told it to Riot Monday night, I think it was, and maybe the owners as well. And then the next day it was announced that it was going live. So the Players Association actually is not even upset that the league is still happening. I think they're just upset that they're like, you asked for our opinion, and then it sounds like there wasn't really any discussion. Like Riot theoretically could have gone back and said, okay, well, let's talk about this. Why are the majority of you upset about it? Or, why are the majority of you wanting to cancel it? And when they say, well, Path of Exile just launched a new league, then Riot goes, okay, well, maybe not a good reason.
Yeah, I'm sure if the reason that they gave was Spring Split doesn't matter, and we don't know if they did, but if they did,
it was among the reasons. It was among the reasons.
Yeah, it was at least among the reasons. But, based off the Greeley email, there was two, and one of them is Spring Split doesn't matter. Like, that's not a good reason to probably a lot of the riders, because even if Spring Split didn't matter, like, there's a whole economy of like this of our league, like Kobe and Mai's job, Travis's, the investors, the sponsors, the tech people who work. Like, you can't, like, there's so many other things riding on the league from like when you look at talking about canceling the league, that the fans as well, like all these other things that I can understand why no one else wants to cancel the league. And I think maybe they could have done a better job having a discussion, but things were also moving super fast. I literally got, and I think it's okay to say this, I got one email at 2 p.m. one day saying, yeah, we're going to be maybe doing it in studio, no audience. And then like 3 hours later, I saw LEC get canceled. And then like 2 hours later, I get another email saying we're canceled for the weekend. And that was the week that we lost. And so like things were moving super, super quickly. And so I I don't know you would have a conversation with the entire players association at the rate that communication was kind of going on.
But
Yeah.
so
I think a lot of problems are people lumping arguments into the same bucket too, right?
Yeah.
Because people being upset about the number one reason on the list being spring split doesn't matter makes perfect sense, right? And I think a lot of people
we don't know if it was the
have
number one
already
reason.
agreed.
We don't know if it was the number.
It was literally listed number.
Yes, but it wasn't
one.
like this
First
is their number
one,
reason.
whatever you want to say.
Well, I think that's where some of the confusion is. That's why I'm trying to like explain it.
Well, it's also factually correct to say it was the first reason listed, and usually you put the most important reason
by
first.
Greeley.
So by Greeley, right? So who knows a little bit, but I mean, yeah.
But I think that everyone is understanding of health concerns, family concerns. The possibility of returning to your home country, having to worry about travel bans coming back, and that doesn't seem like it would get lifted before summer either. So it would be a very big decision where if you left, you probably would not be able to come back for a while because the U.S. looks like it's in very bad shape. These are very complicated issues as opposed to just the spring split doesn't matter thing. I think that is a very easy one for people to latch on to, and that's where most of the outrage is. Was kind of the reasoning behind it, right?
Right, but to the caller's point about the Players Association feeling unheard and unlistened to, I think I can understand that position a little bit when you get asked something one day and the next with no response. You're like, okay, we're doing this. But I think when you look at the larger ecosystem of the North American LCS, there are a lot of other people who have different opinions and have other things on their minds as well. And so it's, while they might have been like, oh, they didn't listen to us, I think if you take a step into Riot shoes and imagine it from their position, you would be like, well, how were they going to, maybe a quick email would be like, hey, we hear you. That's great. Unfortunately, we decided to go in another direction. Does that soften the blow? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. But Riot had to make moves very quickly to begin building the tech stuff. I mean, Friday night, we were in tech checks for 9 hours. Or 6 hours at least. Who knows how long the engineers were there. If you slow that process down by even a day, you might not have LCS on Saturday. Who knows?
I just want to say there's a lot of people in the chat saying I'm a shill or I'm defending all the players. I'd like to just point out that right now everyone in this league seems to hate the LCS players, in part because of something I did. So I'm the one that lit this fire, all right? Just because I've decided to pee on it a little to make it a little smaller doesn't mean...
That doesn't make it smaller. It just makes it stinkier.
I was going to say, that's just going to make it smell bad, Travis.
Oh. Okay. Well, either way. Khan, do you have any follow-up on any of this?
Well, I definitely think people should stop blaming the players for certain things with this. Just like everybody else, they're in their own type of hemisphere and crisis, and there's a lot of different factors that could or could not go into wanting to have the spring split or not be that way. I'm curious, though, if you're players, how motivated are you this year to get unionized, to try and have more of a say in this whole process?
This is a bit of a side rant that we went on last week or maybe 2 weeks ago about how unions don't really make sense right now because you'd end up in a collective bargaining situation or whatever. Given that the pros... Okay, I just want to say...
But see, I think the people pushing that narrative are the people that would be hurt the most by it, which would be Riot and the owners.
I mean, I'm pushing that narrative and it wouldn't hurt me. I don't give a shit. Maybe now instead of being a shill for the players, I'm being a shill for the Riot and the owners. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of who I'm being a shill for at any given point in time. But I definitely feel as though it would not benefit the players to be in a situation where their salaries would drop dramatically because they're able to collectively bargain and take a rev share. Anyway, I think, look, this would be a different situation for Players Association if 90% of them voted to not do it and Riot went ahead with it anyway. But given a lot of them could be Academy players, And let's be fair, we don't. They're academy. Anyway, it's.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Kobe. Did you have a take? You were putting your finger up.
Academy play. What are you trying to say about academy players here? They're
the salt of the earth. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I mean, if the again coming down to the splitting the reasoning, right? If it is a bunch of people saying we don't want to play because we don't feel like spring split matters, that in isolation, I personally, not attached to Riot in any way, just talking from myself, I would be fine with just instantly responding to that and saying, we hear you, but we disagree. So I would like to continue anyway. But if it is, like you're saying, much more a cohesive group of the players talking about, we have these concerns around health issues, these players need to return to their families, stuff like that would require much more consideration. I think that is where you need to have much more discourse. And so again, coming back to, we want more information. Whenever you get little bits of leaks like this, Travis, I want more for strong analysis of it, right? Because otherwise we're just making up hypothetical situations and putting words and reasoning behind people where we're just kind of guessing.
I mean, I gave you all the information Players Association gave me. All right,
Well, maybe you should do better next
more
time,
information?
Travis. Get more.
You want a cat? You want me to go out in the rain to get Chinese food for you? You want me to go get ramen whenever you've gotten to a game and the ramen text message comes in?
Is that how Travis? I mean, maybe I should live with Travis.
Con.
I gave you a public shout out on the dive for going to
And
get
I know,
food, by
I
the
heard
way,
it from
in
the
rain.
other side of this wall. I don't know, is the dive out yet? Okay,
No.
well,
Tomorrow
alert.
morning, by the way, turn into a much superior
Spoiler
podcast
alert,
with Mark.
he gives me, he honors me for going out and getting the Chinese food and then says I'm down at a pit of points. Con, is there anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
No, one last thing. Travis, if you get a certain thing for Kobe, do you realize how much power you're going to have in that apartment? He will not be able to object anything that you want or say.
I already have so much power,
Things
but I
like-
appreciate it. Con,
Yeah, but you have all
we'll
the
catch
power.
you next time.
Have a good night, guys.
All right. Let's take a quick break to talk about Alienware, our sponsor, who I so desperately need to continue supporting me during this time. There's a computer behind me right now. It's an M15. It's a beautiful piece of machinery. I absolutely love it. Right now, I got Kelby, who's off in Montreal, quarantining with somebody over there. He had to leave last minute. He didn't have a computer to take with him. I loaned him my Area 51M, and he said that he's been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege. He says using that monitor, he's got a very expensive monitor set up, 2 monitors, etc., gaming stuff. He says just off that laptop, he's able to play. He says he's, quote, fragging out harder than he's ever fragged before using this Area 51M. Normally laptops, you might think, that's not a desktop. Maybe that's the preferred way to get. He's gaming on this Area 51M with its 144 hertz refresh rate just fine. All right, he's fragging out. That's the way he describes it. Anyway, working on some cool projects. What?
Did you have no stipulation in giving Kelby this laptop that he would have to give some deliverables to you and Alienware to prove
I should ask him
how good and grateful
Actually,
he is?
it's not a bad idea to ask him to film a testimonial about it with his phone. That's actually a really good point. Wow. Kobe, you have so many ideas that are so good, and then you just have this one really bad one. Anyway, so check out alienware.com/Travis. You can go use code Travis10 off to save 10%. Thank you so much to Alienware for everything that they do and to support us. And I've got some cool stuff coming. We're going to try and do some cool things for folks who maybe are playing a little bit more League of Legends these days. Stay tuned for that. All right, you want to grab our next caller, Mark?
Yes.
All right. While we're doing that, some shout outs to Othu, Ronald Denho, Habs 2099 for 1 year. And by the way, Ronald Denho at 18 months, year and a half. Shranimo, Boba Cola, 31 months. Boba Cola, I really wanted to go to Hawaii. I'm sad that I can't see you. Blue Jay is here. Blue Jay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Sarnia, Ontario.
Nice. How's it going in Canada? Are you guys on lockdown?
Yeah, we're locking down, but things aren't nearly as bad as what it sounds like in other places. We're doing okay.
Well, why don't you tell us what your call's about?
Calls about TL getting rid of their coach or coaching staff, I guess. I'm feeling like if they don't really turn around their season, and like everyone knows, they don't really have a lot of time to do that. I think that they're gonna get rid of some coaching staff in the off season.
Interesting. Have you guys talked about this on the dive or any of your? We haven't talked about it on Hotline League, so I'm curious if this is kind of a new take for analysts and folks to talk about, pundits.
I don't think we talked about it in the dive, but I know we were talking a lot about it. We were all hanging out in a voice comm software,
that's
watching
cool.
the games together yesterday. So I know a bunch of the
That's
analysts
really cool.
were talking about this, but I don't think it's
That you guys all got to hang out.
I'm not sure what we've discussed in public, but I know there have definitely been concerns around the Team Liquid coaching staff, from drafts to also, what they're doing inside the team houses as far as trying to find success with such strong pieces. So I would not be surprised if there was a very critical look. If there's no success, especially no playoffs for 4-time returning champions, that would be a very clear space to start.
I mean, it's weird because this is the same coaching staff that got them 4 times in a row spring summer champs, right? So it's
It is, yeah, it is.
so I mean it's weird I'm not saying necessarily that buys them immunity, but it's strange because it's not like they came in and things started sucking. It's like these guys clearly have a record.
I mean, it's not the exact same coaching staff year over year. Like they had Kays, and he parted with the team in summer last year, I think, after their MSI run, or maybe right before it. Forget. And it's not like it was also the 2017 season when TL was awful that they had Kane as well. So there has been up and downs, and obviously the coaching staff is probably competent because they had, like you said, these 4 championships in a row. But sometimes in sports, it feels like a change just needs to happen. And this happens in traditional sports a lot. And unfortunately for the coaches, it's often the coaches that go if they think the players are good enough. Because if you just, assuming the mood is bad, if the mood's fine behind the scenes, the GM can probably be like, oh, everything's fine. But if the mood is bad and you're trying to change the mood, that's the easiest to make.
Especially in teams with extremely high value players. Coaching staff always gets replaced when you have a team of superstars, right? Because people will automatically assume that, all right, well, we can't upgrade these pieces, so guess we're gonna switch out the coaching staff. And there have been little bits that have come out in various interviews, and even stuff that Travis has done where disagreements on draft or disagreements on little things do start to build up. So definitely going to be an area to look at, but I don't think there'll be any drastic measures.
You don't see coaching changes,
playoffs?
Kobe, if they don't make playoffs.
I definitely do.
You said drastic measures. You said no drastic measures, which made me think everyone's safe.
I guess he's qualifying drastic measures as players too.
Yeah. I think coaching is the first thing that goes, unless they're thinking about payroll, in which case there would be very drastic measures of actually changing the players. But you would think that if they're not thinking about the payroll, then they would want to keep most of those players, maybe change one piece because their jungle experiment hasn't gone exactly how they wanted.
We just track the Dow Jones over the next couple of weeks to see how much Steve is going to be considering payroll situations.
Yeah, probably a lot. I mean, they have the contracts to the year no matter what, unless, I mean, it depends how. I don't like how cutting contracts work. Like, I don't know what happened with Crown, that they were just like, all right, you can leave.
No, I mean, often it depends on the negotiation. Sometimes it's guaranteed,
Right.
and sometimes it's not. and so
Right.
it just depends on what.
So a player like Crown, I assume, is not getting paid now that he's signed with the new org.
Yeah. Or maybe there was some
so
sort
like,
of clause. I don't know. We don't know. It's
yeah, exactly. So it depends if depending on how TL's contracts are structured, or whatever, that they can even shed salary if they wanted to.
yeah. All right. So coaches in a rough spot right now for TL potentially is what it sounds like. Blue Jay, is this what you were hoping to hear?
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys touched on all the points that I was thinking that are kind of like making it kind of look that way. My audio is a little bit messy, so forgive me if I do repeat some of the stuff you guys said. But we talked about how their drafting has been heavily criticized, right?
Yes.
Have you guys talked about how basically they're all stars and they're not performing?
Yes.
And then I don't know how much. I actually wanted to know your guys' opinion on how much a team or a coach should be blamed for lack of motivation from their players. Like, do you think that's completely on the player themselves, or do you think that's part of the coaching staff should be able to motivate their players?
I mean, if you ask Mark says if there's a motivation issue, it's on the player, not the system.
Would you say 100%, Mark?
Sorry, I spaced out because I was talking to someone in Discord about something. What was that?
Would you say that, because you made the point that, like, if there's a lack of motivation, that's on the player, and I do agree. I wanted to know if that is, like, if you think that's 100% on the player, or if the coach should take any blame for having his or her players have some lack of motivation.
I think coaches deserve some. If I was a coach, and this is, speaking about some of the stuff that we saw, was like everyone was boot camping on their own, and then everyone's checking each other's solo queue accounts, and Doublelift wasn't playing nearly as much. Mm-hmm. I've been in situations where people are like, as a coach, you should have just been firmer with them. It should have been harder. So I do understand that sometimes it is hard to control people who just say no, or they say, I'm going to do this, and then they don't. But I do think coaches do share some of the blame if you're allowing people to slack. And that will happen, and you kind of got to ride them and try and motivate them. And I assume the coaches did do this, and ultimately it didn't work to some degree.
And it is really hard to motivate people. Mark was late for this show, and Kobe found out it was 2 hours long, and he had to install Skype and started freaking out. So I could just tell you, motivating people to do things it's very difficult.
Skype is a big ask, by the way. I'm having trouble reading visual cues because Skype is being so jittery for me. It's our upload problem. It's not Skype's problem, but getting Skype set up was also a task. What was I going to say, though?
Motivation.
Because I had something a very long time ago. Oh, yeah. I for sure 100% think that this is part of coaching staff job description. Teams literally have only motivational coaches. They have, the sports psychologist position is basically built around this. While yes, some blame does lay on the player, and that's part of what you evaluate when you are making a roster and signing players. Is one of the bars of their skill sets. It is also something that you are trying to improve on, whatever your starting level is, with the coaching staff. So that's why teams do have split jobs for different coaches. There are some strategic coaches, some are motivational sports psychologist type coaches. Yep. Whatever your setup for your team is, that is definitely something that you do have to consider when you're trying to round out your staff.
Blue Jay, thanks so much for your call. Anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
Yeah, two quick little things. One, just kind of I know everyone's going to hear this a lot, but a big shout out to all the LEC and LCS people that put on shows over the weekend, because, yeah, I get that's hella Monka-esque kind of going into uncharted waters there. And another thing is, a week or two ago, Travis, you kind of talked about a little bit about how, like, LCS teams aren't making money yet, and, like, that's to be expected. But is there any, like, timeline, or is there any, have you ever thought about doing a video about when these orgs are supposed to make money and things along those lines?
I mean, it's a much broader question, which is how long can you just keep convincing investors to give you money, and that esports is the next biggest thing.
Well, yeah,
That-
that's a big
Well,
problem.
yes,
If you can't convince
it
them.
wasn't probably as big of a problem 2 months ago as it is now. So I don't want to go too much into this conversation because we need to move on to the next caller. But I'll just say,
Yeah, that's fair.
depending on how long the economy is hit by all this stuff, and including the global economy, but especially here in the U.S., it'll be interesting to see how these esports teams approach it. Like, will we see salaries go down next year for some of the players because the teams can't raise? Will we see some teams go out of business because they can't raise? I don't know. But I think a lot of questions for esports if we're living in a very different world, economically speaking, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Please make a video on it if you ever do get some info. I think that'd be pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult
yeah.
because, just final thing I'll say, it's really difficult to do that because all the team owners are incentivized to tell you they've got the best value ever and everyone should
Yeah,
do
that's
this,
true.
and not ever tell you how much money they're losing, because doing that kind of stuff is only going to make it harder for them to raise. And so actually getting your hands on any of this data is incredibly difficult. However, I will say that I'm currently working on getting the team salary information like I did last year for the talk about how much the teams are spending. So stay tuned for that video if I can get the rest of the information I need for it. Anyway,
Sweet, use those connections. You know what I'm saying?
no, that's not a thing I would do, but I appreciate the suggestion. Thanks, Blue Jay.
All right, thanks a lot,
Have a
guys.
good one.
Take care.
All right, moving on to the next caller. We got Blaze of Glory, Grumpy Conductor, Puppy, Pluto 7443, OPTSM Fan, Scrapjack, Osphase, Upset Manatee, and B-Malms. Looks like our next
Oh,
caller.
I can't drag.
What?
I'm lagging. There we go.
Looks like our next caller is here, Wasted Dolphin. How's it going, Wasted Dolphin? Where are you calling from?
Good. Actually calling from San Diego.
San Diego, where I'm from. I really miss living down there sometimes. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I'm calling in because I think Evil Geniuses is going to win the whole split, and I think they're going to be the most dominant best of 5.
Hang on, let me see what users are in the chat really quickly before I finish this conversation. And I think... I see. Okay. I completely agree. They're going to stomp everyone. I could not agree
Nicole's
more.
watching.
They are
Cloud9's here too.
literally the best team ever. I can't imagine how that would go differently. No, Mark, I'm going to kick this over to you.
Me? Why not Kobe?
Or Kobe.
Is he also compromised?
I mean, she bought him a mug that says "Show me your kitties." She's not very helpful with me in terms of the campaign. Anyway,
So Kobe is compromised because she's taking his side, and now he won't want to criticize EG.
right, exactly.
Yeah, but she doesn't seem to be actually changing Travis's mind, which I thought it was going to do more to help out with the cause, but Travis is not.
Well, she's an
budging,
evil
so-
genius, so she plays both sides. She has you thinking that she supports it. She has me thinking that she supports me. Yeah, she's quite good at this. Anyway, sorry.
I see.
Kobe, if you have an opinion, we can start with you.
On Evil Geniuses winning the split.
Yes.
They're the best team in the
So-
world.
What? So you have to take this by steps. First step is get into playoffs. That's looking great. They would love to be a top 4 team in playoffs, to have double elimination in the playoffs, which is also looking very probable for them right now. Current standings, plus the way that they've been playing. They're on a 5-game win streak. So I think there are a lot of people that have started to feel more similar to Caller, and that seeing them win game after game after game and seeing them execute very well, playing side lanes, Jizuke playing aggressively, but also cohesively with the rest of the team, does inspire a lot more confidence than early on in the season. I still think that it is going to be a tremendous feat to take down Cloud9, and they should be favored if you are betting on this or in any way, but I would say that there's a higher percentage chance than previously for EG to actually contest.
that's a pretty cold
That's
take.
so couched. Yeah.
But I would not put them first. Yeah.
Would you put him second?
Let's see. So for me, yeah, between TSM and EG right now, for me, for second. And I'd be willing to do that. I do think if I was making my list right now, though, it'd be C9, then TSM, then EG. But I think there's good discussion to be had and some more thought to be put into TSM versus EG. What about you, Mark?
I think EG would probably be third for me right now. I think they've overtaken FlyQuest. They're playing better than TSM right now, but I don't think that necessarily means they have a better shot of taking down C9 in a best of 5. Just because, and we kind of talked about this on Dive a little bit, is like it's not always about how strong is your strongest player, and I think Jizuke is incredible, but also how exploitable are you at some of your weakest links. And I think the top side would be scary for me against Licorice and even Broken Blade, where if they start hard targeting Kumo and draft and play and stuff, he's got to survive that for 5 games. And I currently don't think I've seen enough from him to overlook that. But I think other parts of the map are playing really well.
I would at the risk of my rest of my evening, I would also say EG third is the best chance, especially because I feel like EG seemingly is a pretty emotional team. I mean, Jizuke seems like a wild card, and Bang had that kind of bummer town interview halfway through the split, and it's just the type of thing where, like, do I think that, for instance, if they lose the first game or they're down 2 games, that they have the resilience as a team that just formed to come back and win the next 3? Like, I just feel like they are in a much more precarious situation in a best of 5 than perhaps TSM and C9 are.
And to kind of back up Mark's point a little bit, the last 2 teams that EG lost to before going on their win streak were TSM and 100 Thieves. And 100 Thieves have someday in the top lane.
Mm-hmm.
Both TSM and 100 Thieves are kind of top lane powerhouse teams that have stronger top triangle than bottom, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a lot of the teams are. I would say even C9 is more topside focused in the early game. TSM, Thieves. Yeah, it's actually over half the playoff teams about.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see how it goes, but I mean, it is interesting to see them bounce back to kind of the place. I mean, I was watching, I think the analyst desk, or maybe it was like the Bud Light breakdown or whatever, where you guys were talking about, Mark, the like everybody kind of agreed, okay, they're officially top 4 team, and kind of going back to where people had predicted them towards the start. So it's been interesting to kind of see them end up in this spot. We'll see how things go.
Not everyone put them 4th, actually. I don't know if Kobe wants to bring up the preseason dive power ranking. I think I had EG the highest.
I don't know. That we're gonna have to search back to check the tapes on that one. I do know that in the mid-season dive predictions of who is gonna move up into the playoffs, I chose EG, and you and Azale chose different teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're both winners at different time periods.
And you're both losers.
Let's all just not mention CLG. Yeah,
You're both losers at all time periods. Okay. Wasted Dolphin. Anything you want to say here at the end?
The only thing I wanted to add was just that I think in terms of top lane difference, of course, Kumo is probably the weakness of EG that people are exploiting, but I also think that people are glancing over and not talking enough about how weak Licorice has looked this split.
Okay, we can explore it. Do you guys feel as though Licorice is looking weak?
I don't know. He just did pretty well in Callisto, I think. He had a pretty bad second game, but so did both solo laners, and Blabber looked kind of weak all weekend, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned about Licorice. So he did have, to me, the worst game was the set game where Blabber went in, got the kick out. And
against CLG.
Yeah, because he was having a rough game previously in that game already, and then he had the kind of blooper ult with the D synergy or dyssynergy or whatever you want to call it. So that was one that kind of sticks out. But other than that, I think he has not had games where he has been a liability. He hasn't had as many of the big hard carry. Oh my God, here comes the Aatrox flank and he wins the whole game for the team. But he hasn't needed to do that with this version of Cloud9.
I mean, I think it's hard to imagine a world if this is what the caller is suggesting, where they beat Cloud9 in the finals and people go, wow, Licorice just fed his ass off to Kumo in this situation, right? Like, it doesn't feel like, even if Licorice is weak, and that's an if, it doesn't necessarily feel like that's the place where they're going to be exploitable, right? It's not like EG has like a really strong answer in that lane.
None of our other shows have chat. As soon as I said that, there's a guy in chat that said, Licorice is a liability nearly every game. Shut up, Kobe. And that just made me smile. I don't know if you guys are used to that instant feedback.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, I don't even look at it anymore. A couple times you might get me to respond to you in Twitch chat, but otherwise,
I mean, you were arguing with Papa Smithy earlier.
Yeah, I mean he's a somebody though.
Yeah.
Oh wow, you're a elitist, huh, Mark?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll rub up against all the big names.
Dude, Kobe, people were literally just spamming that I was a shill earlier, so I definitely get it. Anyway, Wasted Dolphin, congrats on your prediction. If it ends up happening, you're going to feel really good, and we'll invite you on the show for the victory lap.
Sounds good.
Any shout outs, anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to shout out to people working in healthcare right now. They're dealing with a lot, my wife and mother-in-law included, so shout out to them.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good one. Thank you for shouting that out. Have a good evening. All right, on to the next caller. Twitch chat spamming hearts. How wholesome. Let's see. John G365, thank you for the 10 months. OPTSM fan, gifted a sub to Boater Michael, who's now been a sub for 18 months. That's a big deal. Wibs, thank you for the sub. OPTSM fan, gifted a sub to Kapalulu, who now is 1 year. Kapalulu, 1 year, probably all through gifted subs because she's pretty toxic. Stickman Alv, Stickman, where are you calling from?
Arkansas.
How are things in Arkansas? Is there much of a lockdown, or can you still guys at life normal?
Schools have closed down pretty much for the rest of the year. And most places have changed hours, no more indoor dining. It feels like the same stuff that's going on, but it's just not. It doesn't feel like the people are quite taking it as extreme yet.
Well, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Team Liquid not making playoffs is better for the long-term LCS.
Oh, interesting. Why?
Because if Team Liquid makes playoffs, it shows Doublelift and all of the other teams that you don't have to try for 6 weeks.
So you're kind of the opinion TL, at least Doublelift, seem to be phoning it in, and them making playoffs would not be the punishment they deserve for that.
Yes. If they make playoffs, there's no guarantee that next year Doublelift doesn't phone it in for a little while. There's not another team that's oh, I think we have a playoff roster, so we're just not going to actually attempt trying. If we win games, we win games. If we lose, we lose. We can just try it in the second half of the split and start trying to actually win.
What if they got last in playoffs? Do you feel like they still feel that way?
Since there's or I guess now they kind of have a better system for showing that you're last in playoffs, it would probably work out better.
I mean, let's say they lose their first match in playoffs.
It also would depend on where they go in at. I don't think there's a guarantee on where they would.
I just feel like if they get embarrassed in playoffs, it might have the same effect. So I don't know if saying, well, if they get in, then it sends the wrong message, because I think if they sneak into playoffs and then get embarrassed, I feel like that is still going to look really bad for them. They'll feel bad and maybe won't have that opinion. Kobe or Mark?
So you go, Kobe.
There's lag on all my video feeds, so I can't tell if you're starting or not.
No, this isn't the dive. You won't give a fuck. If you start talking and I start talking, we just both keep talking. It doesn't matter.
Okay. I do like the idea of a clear example of complacency getting punished, and the kind of the point that caller is bringing up to deliver the message to everyone else, like you have to watch out for everyone under you because everyone's hungry to climb up the ladder. I think that's a decently good message. I do think it's more impactful if you don't make playoffs at all. That is embarrassing.
You know what else is embarrassing? Getting smashed by Keith McBrief and lost in lane. I feel like that also sent a clear message.
Yeah, but to the caller's point, maybe Doublelift returns to power and smashes NA again, and then that, like, who cares about the key thing? No one's going to talk about that really after that point. So it's a tough lesson to learn, and I don't think I would have rather have not had to have this conversation. I'd rather TL just be good. But at this point, like, I'm kind of torn on whether I actually want TL to be able to recover from this and, like, go win or something. Like, if I'm speaking as a fan of competition and some of that stuff, yeah, I want more good teams and whatnot. So I don't know. It's a weird question to think about from that
By
angle.
the way, I meant FBI, not lost. FBI. Correcting myself. Continue.
I also think that Team Liquid would come into summer with more of a fire, if not making playoffs, because like they didn't even get the chance to prove that they can do well in a best of 5, and all of those players are like, we are good in a best of 5, and all of those players seem to try harder whenever it gets later in the season. I'm not saying that like ramping up is a bad thing. I'm just trying to say that like phoning in is a bad thing. And if they come into the beginning of summer with a chip on their shoulder, we have to prove that we were the best team and we actually do deserve to be in first. That seems like a much better summer split than, oh, well, we can still make playoffs if we just, start trying in 6 weeks.
I do think that the Team Liquid players are pissed at where they are already. But it is a stronger message if you don't make playoffs at all. But I know they're very frustrated and they're very mad, and the chip is there right now where they feel like they deserve to be higher.
Yeah, I don't know. I think ultimately I do want TL to make playoffs interesting. That's where I've decided. I agree. I kind of agree with the caller's point about you want to see like the repercussions for maybe some of the things that happen this split, but
you want your anime characters to all be present, right?
Yeah, you want them to have learned the lesson and have the redemption arc.
Well, we'll see. I think, God, if they... Do we think... Okay, let's just do... I don't know if we have another TL take, but I'm kind of curious. Do you think that these guys are going to make it into playoffs?
No, I actually don't.
Wait, I think I heard Kobe's side of this on the dive earlier, and he was a coward. Kobe?
Me?
Is TL going to make playoffs?
I say no. I say they don't make it.
I would put them out of it.
Oh,
right
you would?
now.
Okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I misheard.
Did we?
I thought that you had said that you... Because, there's a wall. I thought that you had said...
He doesn't watch the show. He just listens to you speak through
That's
a wall.
true.
So anything he hears is muffled.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard Kobe predict that TL wouldn't make it into playoffs, or would make it into playoffs, but...
Oh, on this or that, we have a slide.
Oh, that's what it is.
And-
But I don't want to spoil it. Everyone go watch the this or that. I don't want to be the new spoiler for all the Riot content. I'm going to shut up about the things I hear from that side of the wall.
Yeah, I gave
Travis leaks Gafford.
I gave the Mark anime answer. I was like, I can't do it. Need to put Team Liquid in there to have all the characters.
Listen, I don't want to get an angry message from Dave Stewart, the executive producer of the LCS. So please, everyone, go watch this or that.
You have already compromised some of our premiere content, Travis. So I don't know. I might have to move out.
And you can get a cat.
And then I can get a cat. 2 problems.
You can also go
Gone.
get your old Panda Express in the rain. You goddamn. Anyway, Stickman, anything you want to say before we move on?
I just want to say that all the people in chat that have different ways of saying Kef or Kobe are awesome, and to continue doing so.
Let's get to the next caller.
Right.
Techno Weeb, thank you for 25 months in a row. I love you, chat. 28 months. Scam Likely Unofficial, Srayo, Ari Waddle, and Caruze 44. Thank you everyone for your subs. Really appreciate it. Very nice. God, I have to keep censoring more things. Wait, how can Cloud9 should lose their mod privileges because they're using censored words that they can get by using mod. It's very very inappropriate.
Is that Mateus?
I assume it's
running it,
Mateus.
by the way?
But you don't know.
Let's go.
I don't see Jack around, so
I
maybe
like
it's Jack.
I like to imagine that the entire Cloud9 organization is huddled around one computer deciding what to type.
That's true. That's true. Whatever Cloud9 types represents every single person at that organization.
I mean, it's Cloud9. What else
It's
could it
true.
be?
The official Cloud9 stance.
They take a vote actually before they type in chat.
That's true. That's true.
Everyone gets one letter to type the message. You have to complete
They
it.
take a vote. Only 90 people reply, and little less than 2/3 have an opinion. Tom Shu is here. Tom, where are you calling from?
Hey guys, how you doing? Calling from Washington D.C.
Washington D.C. That's right. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I was asking where you could hope how we were doing with coronavirus.
How are you doing with coronavirus?
It's actually starting to get bad. Like they've had a huge run on toilet paper, and I think the mayor of D.C. has ordered a lockdown. I think it's actually funny, like how many old people and how many kids I've had to throw down with just to get some of the essentials like toilet paper and bleach and stuff. It's like, oh
Well,
my
I hope
God.
you're taking
Like,
care of the elderly and the young, because I don't know if throwing down with those people at a crisis is necessarily the good move.
Bro, they have numbers, but I have strength. That's just how it is.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about TSM and how I don't think we should be sold on them quite yet. So the problem with them is that I've noticed over their last couple games, it seems like there's a certain dependence on having Broken Blade be able to dominate his lane and exert pressure on the map for them to be able to snowball leads and actually get anything done and to carry that into the mid game. And I can basically give you a couple examples if you want. Just for an example, like say like their game versus FlyQuest, and that Broken Blade, I believe Aurelia, they go top and do a 3v2 dive against Viper and Santorin, and Aurelia gets a double kill, but that sets Aatrox behind. But now the set's ahead of the Aatrox, so Broken Blade is fed, so now we go down, they snowball the rest of the game. But consider a game where Broken Blade doesn't have pressure, like TSM versus Immortals, in which Broken Blade was playing Gangplank versus SOAS's Ornn. Like, heck, even though Gangplank gets a kill early, it's still Gangplank versus Ornn, right? Like, no one is going to, like, Gangplank isn't going to be able to pressure that lane once Ornn tanks up hard enough. So Broken Blade's not be able to get that pressure, and Dardoch just goes ahead and ints. And it's actually crazy to me, like, when you think about this, because this actually sounds almost exactly like spring 2019 TSM, except you've pretty much got the entire like roster there. It's like you've got Broken Blade, you've got an aggressive jungler, except you've got Dardoch in for Acadian, you've got Bjergsen, you've got basically a farm early game and fight for late game 80 carry, except it's Kabe instead of Zen, and now you have Spoody instead of Biofrost. And now can you guys see the parallels here? Yeah, can you guys see parallels? Yeah.
I remember all the games that they played weird shit and lost, like Kale Top and all
exactly.
those.
Like, yeah, he died once. I think it was like Set versus Kale. He died once as Kale and just useless the whole game.
Yeah. Kobe, you want to go first, or should I go first?
I do like. I saw that they had a line in one of the videos that they put out where they came to the realization that it's going to be a priority for them moving forward to know how to win the game with the champions that they draft. I was like, man,
Wow.
that's good.
Mm,
That's some good stuff right there.
I wish every team could do that.
So
Just suggest that to
think,
Team Liquid, by the way. That might be a good strategy for them too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
We win with
sometimes it gets
Senna.
crazy while you're drafting. But yeah, I definitely TSM Broken Blade is a very big part for this team. We kind of touched on it earlier, where we talked about the top triangle of the map for TSM has been their strength. Bjergsen on Syndra has been super important. And then how Broken Blade and Dardoch can navigate through the mid game definitely is there. I'm not sold on any team though. As far as talking about being sold on
Not
teams
even-
right now,
Not even Cloud9.
yeah, I mean, you have Cloud9 who you're like, all right, they're number 1, and then you're like CLG, they're number 10. That's what I know. Everybody else, we got some wiggle room. So we thought we were going to see consistency, I think, from TSM. Everybody got hyped up when they 2-0 week, they defeat Cloud9, deliver them their only loss of the entire split. And then you kind of lose confidence in the returning week with some of the gameplay there. So nothing is for sure anymore.
Yeah, I think that's where I ultimately land. I still see the ceiling of this team. Like you mentioned, spring 2019 TSM, and like honestly, that's not a bad comparison. Not just in terms of gameplay, but also like in terms of quality of play. Like that was a pretty good team. I think like if they can hit their form like they kind of hit it in playoffs, that's a really, really good team, actually. And I would be excited to see if they can challenge C9 like that. We saw them win that game, and that's kind of, it was reminiscent of that style. So, when I understand the concern about it being maybe a little limited in terms of your game plan, but honestly, I don't think having a preferred and primary style, assuming your champ pools are deep enough, which they seem to be for TSM, is a bad thing, just with, how FPX and some teams have pretty defined play styles. It feels like it's not a dirty thing to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine, but it can just be a problem when you start dealing with matchup issues, especially when you start going to Licorice versus Broken Blade. I think we had this whole segment about how great Licorice was on playing weak side, because I think he had that Aatrox game versus, I think it was like Kennen or something, or Lucian.
Shen.
Yeah. No, not that one. Or he was playing-
Yeah.
Lucian with Ignite.
Yeah, but then he played Shen and got dumpstered.
Yeah, but I think that was just an awful match. Why did you play Shen against Set? That was terrible. But yeah, but you know what I mean. And it's just like you start getting into matchups where other people can start playing or know how to counter your weaknesses, and it just starts becoming a problem.
Yeah, I think that's why it's interesting though, is because we were talking earlier about how many good top laners there are right now.
Yeah. So do you think they have a reasonable shot to beat C9?
Kobe froze at the funniest.
Am I frozen again? Do I have to
You're frozen with your head stuck up. Oh, you're back. Yeah, it was. I think that they could beat C9, but it would be like, I don't know, 30% odds right now, or
Yeah, I can give it like 25%.
no, we're not that far off.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. Yeah.
Thanks so much for the call.
Dead team.
Anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to give a small shout out. I think several weeks ago I was flaming some of the other mid laners, and I just wanted to give a small shout out to Ryoma because he actually had a good week this week. So actually making me eat my words on that one. So good job, man. You
Yeah, it
deserve
feels like there's actually been several players who, like Aika had a good match. People are pretty Jizuke, who people flamed hard.
Let's not go too far. Jeez, you're stretching
Did
me
I
out.
not?
But
I mean, am I wrong, Mark and Kobe? Did not Aika look better than normal?
It was a weird game. I don't know how Kobe feels, but he played lane well and farm well, but he also wasn't really pressured by the Sejuani ganks or anything, and then he missed some big shockwaves, but he played fine. There were big I don't know.
All right.
Yasui for LCS. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thanks for the call.
Have a great night.
All right, we got 2 more callers to go, and then Kobe can finally be free. Captain Hat, thank you for the 6 months. Orlando Jones.
I'll only truly be free when I have a pet, Travis. Travis?
Mark should be here any minute. Oh, OPTSM fan is here. OPTSM fan, where are you calling from?
From Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about how I really enjoyed actually the LCS production this past weekend.
Oh, okay. What did you like about it?
I don't know what like obviously all the cool graphics and stuff and the pauses were kind of like meh, but for like I don't know why, but it didn't feel like as professional like traditional sports and everything, but from whether it was the casters and the way they were casting the games or the way that the analyst test was going on, it just felt more authentic and real. And I was like, yeah, these aren't like people trying to be like official sportscasters and everything. We have to go by what the teleprompter says. It was like, hey man, we're just casting and we're having some fun and we're casting these games because we like video games, and it was really really fun.
I want to publicly apologize to Mark. I did not understand that he was running graphics in his webcam slot on his own. And I thought that he was just... I was like, this is really weird. They could just run this graphic over the top layer. Why are they choosing to cover Mark's face with it? It did not even register in my mind that he might be running those graphics on his own, which I thought was a cute little innovative way of approaching it. So my apologies,
Travis
Mark,
is
but it was
just
pretty funny.
always wanting to put the graphics over Mark's face on Hotline
Yeah.
League. That's all.
I know. I need to start
Yeah.
doing that.
I was probably annoying the producers because I was constantly looking for like little things I could do with the software, like noise gating, which apparently caused more problems than it fixed, and like that kind of thing was changing my scene out. And
You were
I
showing
don't
your
know.
cat a lot, and that was having some issues.
yeah, well, that happens here too. The cable's just a little loose,
Yeah.
but like it comes right back. It takes like a second to plug it back in. No big deal.
Yeah, I agree though. It was super fun to listen to. I mean, I was really sad that I didn't get to be a part of it, but kind of like you're talking about, just it did feel a little bit like old school esports.
Yes.
And a lot of us have been, paying attention in the scene in some way for a very long time when we didn't have more professional broadcasts. I think it was Azael talked about it on a dive, and he was like, we go back to some, home cooking, old school style esports where
Comfort
we got,
food.
our online broadcasts, just chilling with your homies. And that's really what it felt like.
For the first time, it felt like the LCS stream had an identity, as opposed to being like trying to emulate every sports caster thing that you've ever seen on ESPN. It was like the LCS had its own brand. It was memey. It was funny. People were joking around on the cast and everything like that. It was like, we have an identity here. Like, it's really nice. We're not trying to compete with LEC and do exactly what they do as well, or they're kind of doing it better. It's like been a narrative for a long time. It's like, no, this is exactly, like where it, and like I was telling Mark that it felt like LCS like season 2 all over again. Like what you're saying, the old school days. Like once LCS became the LCS, it was super nostalgia, like dopamine rush for me, being all like cabin fever inside here.
I absolutely love
Yeah.
this take because I love that you called in. You're like, I love the broadcast this weekend. You got 2 of the casters analysts on it, and then you've just like snuck in to slam them in the back and be like, yeah, this weekend didn't suck ass. It didn't feel like just a parody of LEC. The broadcast actually seemed like it was something instead of just this fraudulent sports wannabe show like it normally is.
I really like the part how that Kobe guy wasn't on it also.
Yeah.
There was something missing, but like it was kind of like addition by subtraction.
Yeah, that's definitely not where I'm going.
No, but I do. I do find it great that this is just the ultimate Hotline League call where like even the compliment is got to be laced with just insult,
Yeah, backhandedness now.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of weird to do because when I've like become a different person when I sit here than when I sit on the State Farm analyst desk, and like I definitely almost stepped into like Hotline League, Mark, sometimes because it's honestly not that different. It's a box of 3 people talking. The tech we're using is a little different.
Everybody's come down to Travis Gafford's level now. All right, like that's the best thing about this is everybody had all this money, all this production, blah blah blah. Now they're all slumming it in the gutter with me.
We have the best cameras.
I know.
What can we say?
Well, the sad thing is, if our internet wasn't having issues for Kobe, I had set him up with the other extra camera that I have and was going to use my light and everything. He was going to look dope.
So not only did you not let him have a cat, but you didn't let him have good internet to be a part of the cast?
No. We had a tech come out. I mean, I've explained this at the start of the show. I don't know. I don't know. I've got a call with the executive producer of the LCS on Wednesday. Travis Gafford Industries is going to try to solve these technology issues.
No, yeah, go.
I was going to say you should produce it, Travis, with your fucking XSplit mixing and everything.
Everybody could be on XSplit and Skype. I could do that show. All right, let's just spin it that way.
I'm sure.
No. I just no, it was really, really good. I enjoyed it a whole lot, and it just felt like I was watching because the personalities are the reason why we watch all this stuff, right? Like from the beginning, like that's why you followed some of your favorite streamers. That's why you followed some of the teams, because your favorite players went up because of who they are, and it allowed us like a little bit of insight. Well, not insight, but like just a little bit better light on seeing those personalities shine through, as opposed to everyone fitting inside the box of what it needs to be for the broadcast.
Yeah. Hey, Kobe, what'd you think about using Zoom on the dive this week? How good did that feel compared to Skype?
I like Zoom. They're not paying us or anything. Our producer actually had to buy a subscription to let us use it.
Interesting.
But that's like an expense, that you could probably write off.
Yeah, I 100%. But yeah, I mean, it was really nice because that's why Travis has this kind of janky setup where he makes his guests download Skype and use Discord at the same time. Is the visual or the video from Discord's pretty rough.
Well, we also do the audio over Discord so that people can call in, because we can't just be adding everybody's Skype calls constantly. It would not be.
Yeah, but the audio, I mean, the visuals looked better.
No, that's not true.
Really
do you know what a new tech
experience.
NDI stream is? Everyone should go Google new tech NDI stream Skype, or look up Skype for content creators. There's a specific reason why I use Skype instead of Zoom or whatever. Oddly enough, as many issues as we have with it, as much as people complain. By the way, I got every single pro, except for Acadian, to download Skype for me this week and do interviews, all right? So these pro players, who we all agree are the laziest people in the world, they were willing to do it. So everybody else could shut up. All right.
Zoom's just like Spring Split. It doesn't matter.
OPT. Exactly, OPTSM fan. That's what I'm talking about. All right.
No.
I surveyed 90 content creators. Okay, OPTSM fan. Anything you want to say here at the end?
Everyone stay inside so that we can all go out eventually. Thank you, Alienware, and all the sponsors. And get Kobe a kitty. Cat.
On to the final call.
Oh, I can't move. Hello?
I could hear you. Discord cracking out. Oh, there he goes. Mark moved. Everybody's having internet issues right now, and it might get worse. Captain Hat, thank you for the 6 months. Orlando Jones, thank you for 11 months. And Luna Palm. And then Shell DZ gifted a sub to 2 ads. I really appreciate that. Thanks, everyone, for the subs. Subs really helpful right now. Things are weird. Septura, thank you for calling in. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the UK in Sheffield.
From the UK. I've heard you've now officially, as of today, gone into lockdown.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, but
yeah,
got to do what you got to do.
Well, what time is it there?
It's 10 to 5.
Oh my god, why are you up so late?
Got nothing better to do, I guess.
Okay, well,
He's locked down. What else are you doing?
I mean, I have normal sleep schedule. Anyway, September, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Okay, I think that Sunday is MVP of the split by a long way, and that's whether you think it's the most important player on the team or just out of everyone in the split. I think he's just better than every other top laner, and he just hard carries 100 Thieves every game. Well, not every game, because they lose some, but when he can. And he's got to carry that mid laner, Ryoma. So
Hey, we're getting on the Ryoma hype train.
I guess one good week just means that seven
What is
other weeks
that?
just
Once
don't matter.
again, we're demonstrated you can't be a Hotline League caller and call in with a positive take. You have to. It's a balance. You can't lift it up. It's like a seesaw. You lift one part.
It's conservation of flame.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a law
Yeah.
of online debate.
Anyway, so someday for MVP, do you think
Yes.
for Kobe or Mark, would he be in the running for either of you? Like, let's say top 5.
He's definitely in the running. I still have Niski up there for my immediate answer for MVP, but my someday argument is a little bit more nuanced, where he made the differentiation between your MVP of carrying the team the hardest, what's most important to the single team as a single player, or just the best individual all around performing player. I think someday definitely hits the bar for the carrying the team one for 100 Thieves, and he is in the conversation for me for being best all around as well.
Are you only saying Niski's your number one because he's on the Twitch chat?
Oh, is Niski in the Twitch
Okay,
chat?
yeah.
Okay.
No, but I actually think that Niski has been such a big part of Cloud9's dominance. Him and Blabber have really done amazing things this split.
Niski just added Mark C and said it's your turn. So time to answer.
I changed my mind. You know what? I revoked that. Niski has
thought
to
you
be
had
a
a
little bit
special
more
thing?
grateful for my support before just expecting the vote.
He was grateful for your support. He put a heart and then also said, "I love Kobe."
Okay. My vote's back in there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think it depends how. Like, I couldn't do it, but maybe he would sneak into my top 3. Because if they beat TSM and they beat CLG, they go 2-0, they finish 10-8, and that could honestly be second place depending on how things go. If they make second place at 10-8, like, that's starting to be a pretty convincing argument. Not that I think Ryoma is trash, like the caller or anything, but I think there was a period of time where the rest of the split was catching up to his level. I thought Meteos was pretty disappointing through the first portion of the split. I don't think Cody has looked as great as he has on some of his other splits, but I think everyone's starting to get better, and that's why they're starting to have this strong finish. And so when you look at the totality of the split, like, the reason they weren't completely out of the playoff hunt, or even second place should they get there, is Someday was winning some games in the early part of the split, and now he has more help, I think, as everyone else is starting to get better. So I do think if he finishes second, the same way people were talking about PoE and Ignar being great through the first half of the split, he's been just as good in the second half and helped a lot in the first as well. So I would say it would be a pretty convincing argument. If they finish second, he might be the leading candidate, sans any C9 players. I would still probably go with someone on C9 though, because they're so dominant.
I kind of like the other thing the caller touched on, where he's like, someday for sure the best top laner. What do you think is the distance between someday and the next best top laner? Let's say Broken Blade.
For me or for the caller?
I was directing it to you, but we can
Let's
also
start
get
with
the caller.
Mark.
No, let's get the caller first. I don't
Okay,
wanna
well,
pressure him or
who do you
anything.
think the second best top laner is? Broken Blade, I assume, not Licorice.
You tell me.
Okay, well, this split is definitely Broken Blade. Although Broken Blade basically, like, every game, his team either dive the other top and it goes well, or the other team dives him and he just double kills them or something every game almost. So it feels like he just gets handed a lead by either his team or the enemy team every time he does well. Whereas I feel like Sunday just gets his own leads. It just feels like he's more dominant. I think there's a big gap basically between him and Licorice and Broken Blade.
I think there is a decent gap. I don't necessarily also think it's in terms of skill, but like when I'm voting for MVP and all pro and things like that, I try to actually not factor in like my opinion on who's the best as much as what have they actually done in the games. Because I might think Licorice is better than Broken Blade. But a lot of TSM's wins have come from Broken Blade more often, and he's been a bigger carry for the team in picking up their wins. So like I might give him a little bit more credit for something like that. But I ultimately agree. I think the gap for Someday, based off performance, has been pretty big. I don't know how Kobe feels.
Yeah, I mean, I bring it up because I think it's really interesting. If you are head and shoulders above every other player that plays your role, it is really possible to get MVP over like a team that's universally super dominant. And I actually think that Broken Blade has been really good this split as well. I would definitely put Someday number 1 top laner, but I have Broken Blade as number 2 for sure.
Yeah, I think Broken Blade has had a couple more stinkers, like the Kale game and some of those kinds of things. Whereas I don't know. I felt like there were a couple games early in the split where I was like, oh, I don't know about Someday, but that was like week 2 or something. It hasn't been recent memory at all for me.
Well, does that answer your question, Septura, or your take?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd also just like to add that Someday also has to play with Stunt, so
Stop flaming other 100 Thieves members.
I could do what Stunt does. I could press Q on Nautilus and then press R.
Okay. Anyway,
What was that, Kobe?
I will.
Thank
I'll
you.
take it. Thanks so much for your call.
I appreciate you having me.
Have a good one. Needs to get some sleep. Anyway, that's the show. Is there anything we didn't talk about that we should have talked about? I don't think so.
I mean, we didn't really touch on FlyQuest and not really Immortals that much, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't think
Interesting
they
to
have
say
too
about
much.
them.
Like they both are kind of in this weird. What's going to happen this? I feel like their story is going to unfold this weekend, right? Rather than it unfolding last weekend.
Did
Right,
we touch on if we're getting a cat or not?
Yeah,
I think we did touch
that
on
came
it,
up at
and
all.
we universally agreed with the 2,000 people that are in the chat that we would not be.
I think there might be some different opinions, and Travis is confused. So if you could just tweet at Travis, just to clear it up, because I think he's somehow missing it, and maybe he just need to be more direct.
Do you want me to get this cat and then just hate it? Like that's the question. Like I just feel like if I get pressured into getting this cat, I'm
fall in
gonna
love.
resent this cat so much.
My cat did the cutest fucking thing ever last night. All right, so we go to bed at around midnight every night, and we feed the cats at 11. They usually kind of like get a little tired right after eating, and then like right as we're going to bed, they get a little spazzy. And so last night, my cat, I'm sitting here, I turned all the lights off. Ashley's in
Which
bed,
cat?
playing Animal Crossing, the orange one, the little shithead back there. This dude in the pitch black, because he knows once we turn the lights off, he's crate trained, and so sometimes we put him in the crate if he's being a little too rambunctious, and he just goes to sleep there. I go turn off all the lights, and he knows that like, oh shit, he's gonna put me to bed soon. So he grabs his he has like this little fish toy that he plays with, and it has like a little string, and I swing it around. He jumps at it. He grabs it and runs up to me sitting here playing games and just drops it at my feet. And he's like, play with me before I go to bed, basically. And it was the cutest shit ever. And I played with him for like 20 minutes as a reward for being adorable. And like if a cat does that to you, dude, there's no way you're gonna.
Yeah, that's a great story. But also, you just said that you have to put it in a crate because it gets rambunctious at night.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's like it's
Not a big deal, Travis.
If he's crate trained, it doesn't matter. I pick him up and I put him in there, and he chills out and goes to bed and doesn't make a noise until morning. It's actually better than most cats. Look at him. This is what he does 99% of the day. And then I do this.
Shows us his boxers is what he does. Hey, Mark, do you have any shout outs, any plugs, anything you want to say here at the end? Mark?
Hello?
Did you kill the stream when I was cuddling my cat to kill the propaganda?
No, I didn't. But it was really funny because your Skype freeze framed, and then you just teleported back into the chair and said hello. That was really weird.
I was cuddling my cat just to show you how
George
good it
all
can be.
spamming
You DDoSed yourself. You froze. You to kill the propaganda of showing how nice it is to have a cat to cuddle. You would rather kill your stream than show that.
Where did Kobe go? Is there?
He's showing how lonely he is. Look, there's no cat there. He was fake petting it.
Mark gets it.
Mark, is there anything that you'd like to say? Shout out, plug here at the end of the show.
Cat for Kobe. Cat
Do
for
you have any
Kobe.
content coming soon?
Cat for
Are
Kobe.
you working on
No.
anything?
On something.
You are. Oh, well, that thing. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Travis Gafford. I'd like to go on record saying that we're going to get a cat tomorrow.
Wow. Whoa, did you hear that news, Mark?
Yeah, that's great.
I'm so excited. Thanks, Travis.
So what's actually pretty funny is Ashley works at she's a vet tech, and so she's saying a lot of people are bringing in new dogs for shots because everyone is buying pets because they're bored. That's my guess. There's just a lot of new pets, she's saying. I'm gonna guess if you got any cat, it'd be a similar thing. You could come to the hospital she works at and take care of.
Mark, you're doing nothing. You got nothing to plug.
I'll be playing some TFT and some Witcher. Check out the dive tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to seeing the conclusion of the LCS. Everything's really tight. All the games are going to be pretty hype. So I'll see you guys for some more remote LCS this weekend.
Kobe, what do you want to plug?
We have the dive. We also have this or that coming out. Hopefully, our internet will work well enough so that I can be on the LCS as well. And that's it.
What's your Instagram?
Esports Kobe.
All right. For me,
It's one of the better Instagrams from the NA casters. We're all pretty bad. Kobe puts a little effort in there, though.
it is true. Although it's really hard to gram when you're stuck in the house all day. So,
Get a cat. You got a lot of content then.
God damn. All right. For me, I have a shit ton of interviews coming out. If you stick around on stream, I'll air some maybe for sub goals.
Potty mouth.
This isn't the goddamn fucking dive. I could say whatever I want. I don't take that riot money, all right? I can swear if I want. It's my own goddamn show. Anyway, so I've got a ton of interviews coming out, and you guys should all watch them because they're actually... Look, I know there's a lot of stuff around this vote. I talked to a lot of people about it. You should watch because people have very human responses. Like Niski's very upset about it. Cody Sun actually seems pretty spooked about the health situation. Broxa talks about the struggles of being stuck at home and not being able to go to the gym, and that's an area where he is like a stress relief for him. And he talks about how he's not sure if he'd rather be here or be in Denmark. Like these are, I think, some of the best, most important interviews I've done in the past year or so. And so I know it's like, go watch Travis's content, but like, fine, if you want to run ad block, just run the ad block, I guess. I just want people to watch these interviews because I think they're pretty important. That's my big pitch for this week. Anyway, this has been Hotline League. Thanks to Kobe for coming on. I really appreciate it. It was 2 hours long. He didn't expect that. I got to figure out how to feed him now. Mark.
Yes, sir. Goodbye.
Bye, Mark.